Hello and welcome again to the Morning Paper Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Greg Flamong. And with me, as always, is Tim Norcus. What's up, buddy?
Not much hanging in there.
Yeah, you doing well? You said you were watching the home run derby right now.
Yeah, I was. It just ended. Giancarlo Stanton. I think he hit 67 or 61
61 what?
home runs.
Okay, I do not know. I am ashamed to admit I don't even know where the home run derby is, like where the All-Star festivities are this year.
So yeah, it was in San Diego.
Oh, okay. How is he hitting 67? That is not
They
that is not a
they
number that I recognize from the past.
right. So they get if you get to every round's 4 minutes, and you just it's not the old way where it's like you can take a bunch of pitches and like you just have 10 outs.
Mm.
Now it's like 4 minutes, hit as many as you can. And if
Oh,
you
okay.
hit a couple over 440, then you get like an extra 30 seconds.
Oh,
So for him, like for some of the guys who are doing pretty well, like they couldn't hit him over 440.
right.
For him, I think for him, he hit like the five longest ones and like 11 of the 12 longest ones. He hit one four. He hit a couple into the 490s,
Uh-huh.
which is, I mean, especially considering like their batting practice fastballs,
Yeah,
it's even more incredible.
yeah. Because it takes
So
a lot more to generate that kind of distance because they're not throwing it
r-
as hard.
right now he did have the advantage of like since like they go head to head with guys, right?
Okay.
So if you go second and you beat your guy, then you'd kind of just stop wherever you beat him at.
Oh,
But
gotcha.
since, but since he went first, he would always like do his whole time.
Yeah.
So like in the first round, he hit 24. So yeah, yeah. So no, I mean the format's better because they're just swinging more because like you don't have to count outs. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
It sounds better.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
it definitely sounds a lot better. Who else did okay?
so he beat Todd Frazier in the final, which is Todd Frazier won it last year.
Hmm.
Um, and he beat Mark Trumbo, who's the leader, like the home run leader in the semifinal. And he beat Robinson Cano in the first round. He beat him 24-7. So I mean, it's pretty like 24. Like nobody else got. He hit I think 24 in the first round, and then
Uh-huh.
17, and then 20. So that's 61. I don't know that anybody else broke. I don't know that anybody else broke like 18.
This just goes to show that how much I don't follow baseball anymore. Like I don't even know who Todd Frazier is.
So okay, so
I
last
have
year
no idea
actually,
like what position. I don't know what team he
that's
plays
funny
for.
because so last year he was on Cincinnati, and when he won it, it was in Cincinnati, so he
Yeah.
won it as like the hometown kid.
Uh-huh.
Then he got traded. He was actually involved in a trade with the Dodgers, and then he got traded to the White Sox. It was the trade that brought Trace Thompson to the Dodgers.
Huh. I
So
do know who that.
yeah, he's in Chicago now. Yeah,
Huh. Like the
so
Cubs or the White Sox?
the White
Oh,
Sox, the White
okay.
Sox.
Gotcha, gotcha.
So
Well, that's fun. Um,
and then John Carlos Stanton used to be Mike Stanton. Well, I guess he's still Mike Stanton. He just goes by John Carlos
yeah,
Stanton.
yeah, yeah. He's like,
Same guy.
but he's like Italian, right?
I would imagine with a name like Giancarlo, like that's
I
a
thought
pretty
I
safe
thought he
bet.
was. I thought he
Yeah.
was.
He's I mean he's what you would think like a in shape like NBA player would look like in a baseball uniform standing next to other baseball players.
He is a massive human being.
Yeah. Like I don't think he's as big as LeBron because I don't think he's 6'8" or whatever LeBron is, but I think
Yeah.
he's built like that, but I think he's only like 6'4". So yeah, I mean the guy couldn't be any better put together.
Hmm.
So
Uh,
yeah,
apparently he was born in California.
he's from like the LA area.
He went to Notre
Um
Dame High.
yeah,
Yay him.
yeah. And so yeah, the All-Star game's tomorrow also. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that. I did not know the home run derby was tonight. and
Yeah.
I plan to watch 0 innings of the All Star game.
I, I'll admit, like, even though, like, not because of the whole home field thing, but like, I like the All Star game because
Yeah,
it moves pretty quick.
right.
And the reason it moves pretty quick is because you have the best pitchers out there. And unlike the NBA, where it's like, you got kind of like you're just kind of like, you don't really want to get dunked on, but like if guys just kind of blow by you, it's no big deal. Like for these pitchers, they don't want to be embarrassed out there. So like, good pitching beats good hitting, and generally, like these are the best pitchers in the leagues.
Right.
So
And
it's
not just that, but like the players, the batters aren't completely locked in.
right,
And like much like a game like the NBA where there's constant motion, um,
right,
baseball is not like that. So like there's always a lot of standing around in baseball. So
right. And so what'll generally happen is the first 5 innings go super quick
yeah,
because they're always bringing in a new pitcher every inning, and they're going to be like, okay, you're going to get the whole inning. But then you get to the later innings, and even if it's like not a close game, it's like, oh, we're going to like every reliever is going to get one batter. So then you're just having like pitching change after pitching change, even if there's 2 out and nobody on, and you're up like 4 runs. So,
right.
um, but yeah, I mean, it's kind of fun to see. I mean, this year, like so many guys are out with injuries, or if they pitched on Sunday, then they're not going to pitch on Tuesday. So, um, yeah, but I mean, generally, I generally like to watch it more than
Yeah.
any of the other All Star games for sure.
So today I wanted to do so I emailed you this earlier and I wanted to talk about one of the rule changes.
Yeah,
Like I wanted to pick a rule that we wanted to change from like every major sport.
yeah,
That didn't have to do with replay because like replay I think across the board needs to be more widespread.
right,
Um, it's kind of ridiculous that it's not, especially when it's like there's common sense stuff that they could just do that would just
yeah,
make it. I mean, you want to get it right ultimately, and it wouldn't, it doesn't really slow the game down that much anyway. So before we get to that, I want to talk about the news. But speaking of the All Star game, you brought up something to me like years ago, and I feel like it's relevant now because so the game counts. Like the game counts for who gets home field, like what league gets home field in the World Series.
right.
Which, if I mean, that is also a debatable topic. But you brought up the point that like, well, if the game counts, then why don't they save their best pitchers for later in the game then? Like all the
Well, it's
best
not
players. Like why don't they all wait till
right.
the end? Because
It's
that's
not
when.
that you would save them. It's just you play them longer, right? So
Well, I
like,
mean, there's teams don't want Clayton Kershaw, who he's not pitching this year, but you don't want some guy throwing like 80 pitches in the All Star.
no, but like I don't think that like the aim, like for instance, and like they're terrible, but like I don't know that the Angels would have like a really big issue if like they were in contention and was like, hey, instead of Mike Trout like playing 3 innings and batting like, once, maybe twice, like we're gonna play him, basically until the game, either the whole game or until like maybe the game's out of hand. Like I don't think they'd have a generally big issue with that.
Well, I think why wouldn't you bring him in like the fourth inning or something so that he
Why
can
wouldn't you?
finish the
Why
game?
wouldn't you just
Like,
play him the whole time?
well, I don't know. I mean, I guess. I mean,
I
don't
mean, I
you
think
have like a certain amount of players that kind of need to play? I mean, I guess
I
there's no
mean,
rule that says they need to like if someone makes the team, that doesn't mean they have to play. But
right, exactly. So like part of the thing is too is like they hold a bunch of pitchers back because if it's going to be extra innings and it can't end in a tie, it's like, well, we have to have somebody pitch. Like we can't burn through all of our pitchers in 9 innings.
right,
But and while you probably wouldn't, and no team, like even if they were, in a good playoff position, wouldn't want their ace going like 7, 8 innings. There's enough really good pitching where you would say like, all right, we're gonna have Kershaw go for 2 or 3. We're gonna have Arrieta go for 2 or 3. We're gonna have maybe Cueto or Bumgartner go for 1 or 2, and then like we're gonna throw all of our arms in the bullpen. And then you're talking about nobody really throwing maybe more than 50 pitches. I hate to admit it, but like since the Dodgers have never made the World Series, like I've never gotten too worked up about it because it's never really affected me, unfortunately.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't get worked up about it anyway, but I feel like I always like whenever I notice the All-Star game or I watch highlights or whatever, it's like in the 9th inning these games are decided.
Right.
But it's never Mike Trout who's batting.
Right.
It's never
and what's
the
weird
best
is like
player who's batting.
Yeah, I mean you usually have dominant arms coming out of the bullpen.
Right.
But yeah, it's like, oh, you've got like, the one Padres guy in the lineup, or the one Twins guy in the lineup, or
Yeah.
the one Brewers guy in the lineup. But yeah, by then like Mike Trout's gone and Bryce Harper's gone and all the guys are long done.
Like they might be literally gone. They might have showered and left the stadium.
Right. Because what's weird is like, I mean, NBA players have like way more days off, but like they're gonna play again on Friday. So like, you're gonna probably not travel tomorrow night. So you're gonna travel Wednesday, and then you basically have one day off, and that was your All-Star break.
Right. It's like give these guys like a week or something.
Well, I mean, it's hard to fit 162 games in as it is.
Maybe they shouldn't play 162 games. Hey-oh, rule change. Okay, so let's sift through the weekend. So
okay.
So we had the European Championship final for soccer.
Yeah.
Portugal beat the host nation France 1-0. They scored in like the 109th minute or 110th minute, which is extra time, essentially overtime for soccer. It's a pretty big upset, right? I mean, aside from the fact that, like, if they're playing on a neutral field, like, I don't know what the odds were, but, I mean, France looked pretty good throughout the whole tournament, and Portugal basically won one game in regulation.
Right. So soccer odds are really weird. And so as somebody who is well versed in online gaming or gambling, so you have a bunch of different ways to bet it, right?
Yeah.
You can bet Portugal, like when we say to win, they're basically saying in regulation. So you can bet Portugal to win in regulation, you can bet France to win in regulation, or you can bet a draw.
Right.
So in this case, a draw would have won.
Right.
Okay. Then you can also bet like you can just pick a winner, and by winner, like whoever advances, however it happens.
Yeah.
Right. So there you're getting worse odds because you're instead of picking 1 out of 3, now you're picking 1 out of 2.
Uh-huh.
Then you can also bet like, hey, is Portugal going to win in added extra time? Are they going to win in penalties or whatever? That you get way better odds in added extra time because A, it has to get there, and then B, someone has to score. So they were certainly an underdog. I would say if it was on a neutral field, they would be slight underdogs. The fact that it was in Paris, I would say that they were pretty heavy underdogs.
Right.
Especially the way, like, France had been playing pretty well, and you expected them to score because they've been creating a ton of chances. Griezmann's been unbelievable. Giroud has been unbelievable. I certainly thought the game would hit the over. Usually they set these games at like over under 2.
Right.
Right. I thought it would hit the over because France defending is a little shaky. So I kind of thought it would be like 3-1 or 3-2, something like that. But I mean, I guess the term, and look, I'll be honest, I didn't watch it because I was playing a game, but everything I read is the term is they parked the bus, meaning they're going to defend with everybody behind the ball.
They did do that, but I mean, it was one of those because I watched the entire game start to finish.
Yeah.
And the major storyline really was that their Portugal star Ronaldo hurt his knee pretty early, like in the 18th minute or something like that. And he tried to walk it off a few times, like run it off, and he just couldn't. So he ended up being stretchered off the field.
Like a legitimate stretchered off the field.
Yeah, like he tried, like he hurt himself. He kind of jogged off. He came back, and like 2 minutes later, he was sitting on the turf again,
crying.
And like
Yeah.
soccer players, they get stretchered off a lot, and then they bounce off the stretcher and they're playing.
Right.
But if they go down a second time, something.
Well, yeah. Then he's like he knows he's done.
Yeah, something's wrong. And then they tried to wrap his knee again, and then at that point it was actually worse.
Yeah.
Then they took him off, and he's the puncher's chance that they have against every team.
Right.
If he's not there,
yeah,
you're kind of. I mean, it was. How are they going to create chances? I mean, what is the deterrent to France just sending multiple players forward without him in the game? And Portugal did park the bus, but it was one of those games for France where, they had a lot of shots. You know what it was? It was a lot like the Belgium-USA game. In the round of whatever. In the first round of 16, the first knockout stage of the last World Cup, when Tim Howard had like 20 saves or whatever. Right. And it's like he had 20 saves, but like everyone was kind of right at him.
Right.
And that's how it went for France. Like they had a ton of shots, and they hit it was basically always within reach of the keeper. And he was making good saves. It's not like he wasn't. And France hit the post, I don't know how many times. I mean,
I think I read 4.
Yeah, they hit the post like 4 times. And not just that, but just that they were so unlucky that the ball never ricocheted to one of their players.
Well, I saw the one, and I think it was an added extra time. Or no, it was right at the end of in stoppage time. It hit the inside of the post.
It hit the inside of the post, and it's like a couple feet away from Griezmann, who's just got to tap in. And it just it didn't bounce the right way. And then Portugal gets gets a guy at the top of the box, and he just unleashes a shot, and it's right in the corner, that you just can't really expect anyone to save. And there you have it. They're the champions. So,
well, the thing is with that shot too is you kind of watch it, and like, so it's kind of through like a screen, because it doesn't look like the most like ominous, like nobody could save this, but like the goalie, it's just like it's like a split-second reaction late,
and he's moving the opposite way.
Right, he can't really see the ball coming off the foot, so that's a split second, and then the ball's going away from him. Yeah, like I mean, it's pretty incredible that, I guess, looking like now when you look back, you think like, man, Portugal won the Euros. They didn't have to beat any of like, I mean, I guess France is a traditional power, but like on the bottom end of traditional powers, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Didn't have to beat Germany. Didn't have to beat Italy. Didn't have to beat Holland. Didn't have to beat Spain. And then I guess like France probably has a better tradition than England, so they beat France.
Right.
But that in itself is kind of crazy.
Yeah. I mean, it's like they barely made it out of the group stage.
They were in position to be eliminated 3 different times.
Right.
Hungary was up 3 times by 1 goal.
Right.
And they scored, I don't want to say it was super late to tie 3-3, but it was after the 70th minute, I believe.
Yeah.
To draw 3-3.
Yeah. And I mean, Ronaldo didn't get to play. Like he was not really a part of the final, but like the Hungary game that you're referring to, like he scored at least 2 of the 3 goals to keep him alive in the tournament. So, I mean,
and then he scored against Wales in the semis.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he's by far and away their best player, and he's by far and away,
I mean, it's him or Messi. It's him or Messi.
Right. So.
What else over the weekend? Serena Williams, she won Wimbledon for her 22nd major.
22. Yeah.
That's an incredible number.
I mean, look, it ties Steffi Graf, puts her 2 behind Margaret Court. Um,
How old is she
but
now? I'm gonna check. Keep
she's
talking.
30. She's 34. You don't have to check.
Oh wow.
Um, but what it also does, like, well, at least for me, and not that she's been struggling, but she hadn't. I know it seems weird. She hadn't won in the last 3 majors,
Uh-huh.
right? And so, like, when any athlete starts to decline, like, it's got to start somewhere. So I kind of started to think, like, maybe this is the start of it.
Mm-hmm.
But um, I don't think throughout the tournament she kind of had. I know she lost a set to uh, an American in like the 3rd or 4th round, and then she rallied back to win. And even the final, I know she won in straight sets, but Kerber was the one who beat her in the Australian Open final. And when you win 7-5, 6-4, those are pretty close as far as sets go.
Right.
That's
Mm-hmm.
a couple points here or there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, it shows 2 things. Like, not only is she the best still, there's no reason to think that, like, this, if it's up to her, is going to end in the next 3 or 4 years.
Right.
Because there's nobody who can stake their claim to even be number 2.
Mm-hmm.
Right. There's no.
Yeah, it's like kind of a revolving door of competitors.
Right. So like the gal who beat her in the French Open, like, she lost in the 1st or 2nd round to like a qualifier.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just something that doesn't happen on the men's side, but it's something that also doesn't happen to Serena. Like, when she loses, it's late in tournaments.
Yeah.
So for me, the biggest thing, and I think we talked about this on one of the podcasts, like, for tennis, I don't know why more than any other sport, it's like I'm cheering for Americans, right? Like, that's what I cheer for first. So
That's
like,
why it's so hard to get into it.
after her, on the men's or women's side, like, I mean, it's been a really long time since anybody but her has won a major.
It's so hard for me to get into, because women's tennis, even in women's tennis, like I just assume that Serena's gonna win, even when she doesn't. It's like I just
Right.
And on the men's side, like there's no male player that I can really get behind.
Right.
Well,
I don't know if I get behind. I don't know if I ever get behind any of them. But what I'm hoping is that they don't get upset.
Right.
Right. Like, I want to see, like, Andy Murray play Djokovic.
It was bummer that Djokovic went out early.
Yeah, and he lost. And he lost on a couple points that, like, he didn't have challenges.
Oh.
And so, like, they do replay it, and it's like, man, he could have won, and then it might have been different. And the match was played over like 3 rain delays, and
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Weirdness.
That was a bummer.
Okay, so Tim Duncan retired today.
He did.
He did.
You go first.
I mean, there's nothing for me to say. Like, he was a great player. Like, he played 20 years, almost 20 years. He played 19 years with the Spurs. The Spurs were always good when he was on the team. I mean, people forget because, people talk about like how much of a great teammate he is and how he's so selfish and everything. Like, people forget how good he actually was.
Well, it was a really long time ago.
Right. I mean, it was the same thing with Kobe in a way. Like, when he retired, it's like people were just talking about like the last 3 years when he was hurt and broken down and everything. But people, remember. And Duncan's narrative is just kind of like his consummate teammate. Like, he was great. He was a great player. And I think people have always, they talk about him like, best power forward ever. And it's just like, cause it's been decided. So they just throw it out there. And, but people like this guy's putting up like 40 and 10 in playoff games, like meaningful playoff games. I mean, he was as dominant for a spell as Shaq was. He just did it in a different way. Like, he did it with.
I disagree with that.
Well, I mean, I don't mean like as unstoppable. I mean, just as like he put up similar numbers. But he just I don't know. It just wasn't like he didn't dunk on people all the time, and he wasn't just bullying people around. But I mean, he was good for longer.
He was definitely good for longer. But I think part of it too is like these last couple years, and like obviously they won a championship 3 years ago, but like it's easier to hang on and put up like these kind of like lesser numbers when you're doing it on like a winning team, right?
Right.
So like nobody's gonna look at them. Nobody's gonna look at Tim Duncan the last 2 years and be like, man, like lost a home closeout game against the Clippers,
Yeah.
or was up 2-1 against the Thunder with a fourth quarter lead and ended up losing 3 in a row. But it was a longevity thing. It was certainly a longevity thing. But I looked earlier today, so it's like it's kind of off the top of my head, but it's not. I don't think he ever averaged more than 25 in a regular season. And I think in the playoffs he only averaged 25 like maybe more than once. Now he averaged between 20 and 25 a bunch of times. But these like 40 and 10s or 40 and 15s, like they might have happened here or there. But I mean, it wasn't like in Shaq's prime, it wasn't like that.
Right. I mean, the heights were not
right.
high.
But like he did it for 8-10 years, where Shaq's was more like a 4 or 5 year run.
Right. I mean, I know you're kind of baiting me because like I knew.
Well, I'm not baiting you, but like.
Well, no, like you want me to go to the place where I have to defend Kobe because everyone compares them, and like I just don't want to do it. Like I don't like doing it because it's like, look, Tim Duncan is great for a different reason.
Well, I think to me it comes down to like there's 3 separate arguments in these, right? It's whose entire career would you want? Whose prime would you want? So like 4 to 6 years. And who would you want for one game? Right? Who would you want for one game? And they could be 3 totally different answers, right? Because it would be really hard to take Shaq over Duncan for their entire career.
Are you talking about Shaq and Duncan, or
yeah?
Oh, so
Shaq and Duncan.
We're not talking about Kobe.
Well, no, I'm just using it because Shaq is obviously like for a career, like didn't play as long.
So
are
you talking about peak Shaq?
I'm talking about like if you have one game to play and you're taking Shaq as absolute best. Like of course you're taking him over Duncan. Like
no question.
Yeah, like I don't think, but like, do I want Tim Duncan's like 19 years, or do I want Shaq's like whatever it was, like 14, but like the last 2 or 3 were kind of not really seasons?
See, it's hard because like it's like when you talk about careers, right? Because Tim Duncan had what Shaq didn't have, and that was the same coach and essentially the same core his entire career.
I mean, he chose to leave Orlando, but yeah.
But like he chose to leave Orlando. I mean, Penny was kind of broken down at that point. I mean, he left.
No, not when he left. He wasn't broken.
He was not. Okay, but like, who did he? Like, was it Brian Hill?
Who was the coach?
Yeah, was
Brian Hill was the coach. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, it wasn't Greg Popovich.
It was not Greg Popovich.
I mean, it's not like it wasn't Shaq's choice to leave Phil. That was
no, right. I mean, look, like I'm not gonna argue that. Like, obviously, like Duncan had better coaching than Shaq, but I mean, he wanted to go play out of Orlando. They didn't really want to pay him. I mean, if the 30 for 30 is correct, then that's
okay. So then, I mean, so like situations are different. Like Duncan got the same core and the same coach his entire career. So it's like, yeah, it's easy to, and they're filling in guys around you. Like it's easy. It's like same thing with Kobe. And look, I know it's all forced on his part because he is responsible for Shaq leaving to a large extent, and he's responsible for Phil leaving the first time a large extent. But
and Phil wasn't even his first coach.
He was not. Del Harris was his first coach. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't want to like, I knew when Duncan retired, it would turn into like this whole, everyone with their hot take, like Duncan had a better career than Kobe. And I just like stayed away from it. Like it's a useless argument. I would always point out that Kobe's record against Duncan head to head was better. I mean, it's a fact. It was. So
It was better.
and Kobe
I mean, the other thing you'd point out is the only reason they didn't have more head to heads is because the Lakers didn't get as far.
Well, I mean, well, you could say that in 2009 and 2010, though. Because the Lakers, they went to the finals both those years, and they didn't play the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals or anything.
Well, no, but like the Spurs were still in the playoffs. Like, how many times did the Lakers not make the playoffs with Kobe?
4 or 5? Yeah, no question. I mean, yeah, the Spurs. I mean, but like that's almost my point. Like when the Lakers were good, when both teams were good, Kobe's teams were better. But when the Lakers were down, then yeah, the Spurs were dominant. They won in 03, 05, and 07 when the Lakers were down. And then the Lakers got back up again, and then the Spurs were nowhere to be found.
Well, I wouldn't say that they were nowhere to be found.
But they weren't. But they lost to them in the Western Conference Finals in 08. The Spurs lost to the Lakers in 09. They could have reached the Western Conference Finals. The Lakers didn't beat them, and they lost.
Yeah.
And in 2010, the Lakers did not play the Spurs in the Western Conference Finals, so they lost.
Yeah.
They weren't there. So, I mean, but at the same time, like I don't really want to get into it. Like that's what I would say to someone who's arguing with me about whose career was better, who was better. Like Duncan has a bronze medal to his name, and Kobe has 2 gold medals. So
I didn't even know that was a thing.
I mean, it's not nothing. I mean, this guy, dude, it's a bronze medal. Like, what is that? 3rd place?
That's funny that you even know that. I'm gonna be honest.
I checked it today.
That's funny.
He emailed the part about he never made consecutive Western Conference Finals in his prime.
Yeah.
And I was like, that kind of makes sense. So, but I mean, I'm not trying to, because in order to pick one, you have to degrade another one. And I don't think we need to do that. Even though I kind of just did.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's degrading. I mean, if you're just putting them in order, I think that's fine.
I think that the thing that people point to a lot is, well, I don't like rankings, so there's that. But I think that people point to a lot is like Tim Duncan, like they say Tim Duncan is the best power forward ever, right?
Right.
And Kobe's only the 2nd best 2 guard. And it's like, yeah, that's fine, but it just so happens that the best player ever played his position.
Right.
Like if Jordan was a small forward, like who's better at shooting guard than Kobe?
Well, nobody. I'd have to go back and look, but it seemed like Duncan sure played a lot of center.
Whatever. I mean, people will call it whatever they want. It doesn't really matter to me.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter to me. Let's get into these rules.
Okay.
I want to talk about the rules. Okay, so we're just going to go through the major sports. I'll let you pick the first one.
Let's do baseball. Since
baseball
All-Star game.
All right, let's hear it. What is it? What is the one? You know what? And if you want to do more than one, then that's fine with me. I don't care.
Okay, I think only for basketball do I have more than one. Well, because I just two immediately popped in my mind. But for baseball,
okay, for baseball,
they need to computerize balls and strikes.
Okay.
So it's not a replay thing because like it would
no, I got you.
Never been called. So it's just a uniform strike zone, called by technology. I mean, you'd still have basically in my mind how it would go is something buzz the umpire to let him know if it's a ball or strike, and he'd make the call. right? And you'd still
Mhm.
have all the other umpires because you still have to watch out for check swings. And I don't know that you're really going to have the technology to do that. But like
Mhm.
they're still moving the game along, right?
Right.
But it's just he's not the one making the call. It's just buzzing him that this was a ball or a strike. So, yeah, I mean that would be a huge fundamental change. But I think we're going to see that. Like I think we are going to see that in the next like 10 years.
Okay. I mean, I so you think it would be like tennis, basically?
Um, no, because in tennis you have to challenge for
No, but like
that sort of
that
thing.
technology. I mean, like not like you know what I mean? Like it's like it nicked the plate or whatever,
Right, right, yeah.
and then it
I
like it
mean,
would
you
make a
see it.
so you
Look,
so,
you see it in every freaking broadcast. The
right.
K zone, right? So it'd be something like that.
Although, how accurate are those? Like, are they
Um,
completely accurate? Like, do we know that, or is it just something that the network puts up? I've always wondered that.
okay, so it's not completely accurate because the definition of the strike zone is going to change with every player's height, right?
Hmm.
So every player's not the same height, but every K zone is like I don't know what they take like the average player. So it's relatively close.
Yeah.
Um, Now I think the other thing also is you're taking away this like unintended bias that umpires have towards pitchers and towards hitters.
Right.
The biggest difference in a game will be that you don't really have to teach someone how to catch anymore, right? Because you don't ever have to frame pitches,
Right. Like Yadier Molina or whatever. Like
right?
he's
So
not.
like all you have to do is teach it. I mean, look, and it's still a super important part. You have to teach them how to call a game, and you have to teach them how to block balls.
Right.
But you don't have to teach them how to pitch frame.
Frame. Yeah.
Now, pitch framing is it's subjective in the sense that like two catchers could catch the ball in the exact same way on the exact same pitch, but like it's Yadier Molina, so he gets it called a strike, as opposed
Right.
to some backup catcher wherever. So, but it's a big deal. I mean, look, like they've done the analytical studies, like Yadier Molina gets like an extra 500 strike calls a year. Like that's a lot.
That's a lot.
I mean, it might not seem like a lot over 162 games. Well, granted, he's not catching 162; he's catching about a 110. But you're still talking about like 3 or 4 pitches a game,
Hmm.
which is, you know, if depending on how many pitches that they have, is still 2 or 3% of the pitches like you're stealing basically.
Hmm. Hmm.
So yeah, I think just basically uniforming that would be my thing.
Hmm. Um, mine is I want them to get rid of the DH in the National League.
You mean get rid of the DH in the American League?
Oh no. I want them to add the DH in the National League. Sorry, I said it wrong.
Oh, um,
Um, and this is why. The pitchers don't care. I want to see more offense, and the only reason that they do it this way is because like that's how they invented the game, and there wasn't specialization, and there wasn't, you know, like your best pitchers were your best athletes, or your best athletes were the pitchers, and they were also hitting home runs, but now they're not. And it's like, look, if you want, like Madison Bumgarner hits a lot of home runs, so if he wants to bat, then that's fine. But I think there should be DHs. Like I'm tired of these guys just walking up there and taking like 3 goofball swings and then leaving. Like it makes it not fun. You know,
I
like baseball has a fun problem, and watching a pitcher bat is not fun for me. Like automatically sacrificing, like if if a player leads off with a single ahead of the pitcher, it's like I know the pitcher's bunting. Like
right.
that's not fun for me.
Um, I, I think that they should have. I mean, this isn't a big deal for me, but I think it's dumb that they have 2 different rules in each league. Like, I think that's dumb.
Yeah, it's
But
ridiculous.
honestly, if I was going to change one, I would take away the DH because to me, this is like the exact same thing as like yeah, maybe it's not super fun, but like what I like is like strategy, right? So if your pitchers aren't hitting, then you don't have to worry about like when they're coming up to bat in the 6th inning, and it's like, oh man, do I want to try and get another inning or two, or do I need a pinch hitter? Like it takes out all the strategy. Plus, it's almost like the like foul shooting in the NBA. Like yeah, like I know they're bad at it, and like yeah, it's not fun to watch, but like I think that the strategy part on the back end, for me at least, is way more fun to watch.
Okay. I mean, I guess we'll have to just agree to disagree. Like, it's not fun. It's not fun. You know.
I mean,
It isn't.
I guess
Like,
the
I
other
don't.
argument too is it shortens the game. Like not having a DH shortens the game because you're
I mean,
basically you're
yeah. I
taking
mean, you
out
know
the
what else
worst
would shorten
hitter.
the
And
game? Like, you know what else would shorten the game? Like having 8 batters instead of 9. Like that would also shorten it because then I don't have to worry about that ridiculousness.
it actually wouldn't shorten the game. It'd probably prolong it because if you're only
Well,
batting
okay, yeah,
eighth,
because
then
it would turn over. But it's like I don't know.
right,
I just want. That was actually really stupid of me to say. No, I just don't. It, to me, the problem is the game is long. Because football games are long.
right,
They take forever. Like, but I don't mind
longer.
that.
They're longer.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but I don't mind it because it's fun,
right.
right? Like no one ever like I've never said like, oh, they need to do this to make football games shorter. No,
Yeah,
like I wish they would make them. I wish they were longer. Like in the NFL, I'm not gonna like this isn't my rule change, but like I don't like that the clock runs after first downs in the pros. Like I think the clock
right,
should stop on a first down, just like in college. Let's do
right.
it like that. Yeah, so I don't care about the length. I care about it being fun. That's what sports are. They're fun.
Um,
And people aren't like people
yeah,
aren't watching anyway. People aren't going to go to the ballpark because the game takes because like look, if people were worried about how long the games were, like the American League already does this.
right. And their
They
games take
already do it.
longer.
Right.
Yeah,
And but it's like the attendance is what the attendance is. Like
right. No, I mean
let's
it
just
is for sure.
like just give me more batters. That's what I want. I want more opportunities to feel like um you know, you can
Well,
score.
let me ask you this then. Like, would you go as far as to say like any 9 batters? Like instead of just having a DH for the pitcher, like what if you just had like any 9 hitters on your 25-man roster?
What do you mean? You mean so they
Like,
don't even have to play in the field?
yeah,
No, I want them to play in the field.
except for the DH, like he's okay.
Yeah, I guess.
So like you don't want none and you don't want 2, but one's acceptable. Is that
I'll
what you're
tell you
saying?
what I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind. Well, that's hard because my guy might be running. Like I was gonna say, you could designate one guy to bat twice, but someone could be on base. Well, um, I mean, okay, let's think about it. Let's say, all right, I'll say the DH has to play in the field at least 2 innings.
And then whoever he's in the field with can just like sit out the 2 innings, but
Can
like
also
still in the
bet.
game.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. I mean, I don't even know what to say to that, but that's
I mean,
fine.
I don't know. Like to me, it's not that important because they already
Right.
like this problem is already solved because they do it in the American League. I just want it in
Right.
both leagues. I want it to be uniform,
I want it to be uniform too.
and I want it to be more fun. So
Like
that's why I don't want
I
to.
think it's weird that we're at a point where like it's okay that like it's the only sport that does this, as far as I know, like in the world.
Right, like
Where
one
like the
league
same
is different.
sport, right, the same sport and the same like overall league has like different rules for like different teams, which is kind of crazy.
I'll put it like this: like Big Poppy, he cannot play in the National League.
Well, what do you mean he can't play in the National League?
No one would have him.
Sure, they would. You're
As a
telling me he has to
what?
play
A pinch hitter?
if he had to play 2 innings at first base?
No, no, no. Right now.
Oh, right now? No, right now, no.
Right.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
That's a problem. A
I
guy
can
who's
tell.
tearing it up
I
in
can.
the American League can't play in another league.
Right. I can tell you what. Like for sure, the players' union would vote for it. Right. Because you're basically just creating like 15 more jobs.
See, I'm on the side of the players, Tim.
Yeah.
I'm on the
Yeah.
workers, man. All right, let's move on.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Okay.
Give me your next sport.
Um. Let's go with hockey.
Okay.
You go first this time.
Well, mine is because I really don't know that much about hockey. So, and this theme is gonna be along the same lines of as the one before.
Yeah.
But like they either, I would say, either make the goal a little bit bigger
Yeah.
or make the goalie's pads a little bit smaller.
Okay. No, that's actually really good, and that's actually what mine is. So I guess we could talk about it.
Oh,
The
wonderful.
Yeah. So the goal is the same size. But yeah, I mean they got to make the equipment smaller. So one of the crazy things is, and I'm sure all of our listeners watch like hockey pressers after like playoff games like I do.
Oh, I mean,
But
who
you
doesn't?
see, you see these
Give it.
guys in goal, and you just think like, man, like these are probably pretty big guys. But then you see them
Yeah,
at their pressers, and it's like, no, like they're so small.
they're teeny.
Um, so I think kind of like, and when I use the term like rise as the sport, like as like the rise in popularity, I mean that like for hockey, not for like all the sports, but like back in the 80s, which was pretty much, I guess you would say, like kind of more like the heyday of hockey. Like, you know, teams would average 4 or 5 goals a game, like they just would.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I mean, look, like there were great players then, right? And some of the numbers are inflated because when you played in that era, like you would score a ton. It's not that Wayne Gretzky isn't great or Mario Lemieux is not great or Mark Messier, but like when you see some of these like old school highlights, you feel like it looks like the goals are huge, but they're the same
Enormous.
size. It's just the
Right.
goalies are so small.
The
The
size of
goalies
the
are
goal
so
has
small.
never changed.
Not in a really long time.
Right.
Not in a really long time. Um, so it happened, I guess, probably sometime in the '90s
Mm-hmm.
probably under the guise of like safety, because I'm sure all this equipment isn't less safe. That I am sure of.
Yeah.
Now, like how much safer? Like I don't know. Like certainly the helmets are safer, but like I don't think like I don't think that's what's causing the goals. But um, yeah, I think generally the sport would be a lot more popular if you saw a lot more like 6-4, 7-5 games like that. Like it would just like it's hard for me to think it wouldn't be more popular. So
Yeah. I mean, let's bring on the goals.
yeah,
That's what I
like
say.
no one ever wants like I wouldn't say like there's never time for less goals, but like it's not like this is going to turn into like 15 to 13 games where it's like just shoot it, it's going to go in. Like it's not going to be like that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you are going to have probably 2 or 3 extra goals a game, which would be
Right. Right.
cool.
Um. Okay. What next?
um let's do
You want to do
basketball.
basketball? Okay, go.
Yeah. Okay, so I have two. One is for the draft. I would institute kind of like what Major League Baseball does, where you can go straight out of high school. You can even get drafted and decide to go to college. But if you go to college, you got to stay for 3 years.
Okay.
You got to stay for 3 years. I think it would help both leagues too, or both sports. Which like the NBA doesn't really have a vested interest in NCAA basketball, but like they
Mm-hmm.
kind of should because like that's their next group of players.
Right.
But like at the same time, like I don't want kids who like clearly don't need 3 years of college being forced to go 3 years.
Right.
But I think and like it should be up to the player. Like they could even like you don't have to declare. Like nobody declares for the Major League Baseball draft, right? You're just, oh, you graduated high school, like you're eligible. And you get drafted, and then you decide if you want to sign. Like kids go to college all the time after they've been drafted. It'd be the exact same thing.
Hmm.
So that would be my first one. My
That's a good
second,
one.
yeah, my second one would be, and this actually you might think of it as like this is anti-fun, but I hate that you're allowed to advance the ball out of timeouts.
You've always hated that.
It's 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 so arbitrary, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Like it's so arbitrary. And like, yeah, does it like are you adding like a last second shot? Like sure, like what is if there's anything above point 0.3 where you can catch and shoot, you never feel comfortable, right? Like if a team's inbounding the ball at midcourt with like point 0.7 left, it's like they're getting a shot.
Right.
Like maybe it's not a good shot, but it's a shot. But
Right.
like if they're taking it out underneath their basket with point 0.7, it's like, look, he's either going to throw up a pass that it's a 50-50 pass to catch, or the guy's going to be taking like a 3/4 length shot.
I mean, you're talking about a situation where like I can make a shot on my end of the court and go up one. They can call timeout and draw up a play for a guy to get a layup
Yeah.
and beat me. And it's like, wait, I had to take, it's like I had to like I ran a play and got my shot or whatever and I made it. And now they're drawing up a play where some guy sets a pick, he lobs it up to the basket, he tips it in, and they beat us.
Right. So you can't do it in college.
No, you
can't
cannot.
do it, and you can't do it in international basketball.
Right.
So in college, which if depending on the time, what you might do is try and throw the ball to midcourt and call another timeout. Which if you do that, then I'm fine because you've already got the ball to midcourt.
Right.
But then you need 2 timeouts.
The problem is like so many great moments have come. Like
Right.
they'll never change it.
Well, I mean, like just because so many great moments have never.
No.
Come,
I get it. Like
it would
I'm
be
just
like,
saying.
yeah, like I mean, you could artificially create excitement in every other sport too.
Right.
You could be like, look, hey, it's the 9th inning. Everyone gets to start with the guy at second base. Or like a team scores late in football. It's like, oh, we have a timeout. We want to move the ball to their 40. It's like, yeah, that would be exciting, but like that's not like it's not doesn't mean like it's good.
It would be totally great.
Yeah.
Um.
So those are my 2 for basketball.
Okay, so mine for basketball is I think they really need to clean up like what exactly is a block in charge. And there are things that are charges that I don't think should be charges, and there are things that are blocks like that I don't think are blocks. Like when you have players like defenders who are guarding a guy one-on-one, that guy drives, the defender who basically has his hands away from the player with the ball is retreating, and the player sticks his shoulder into the defender, but because the defender, quote unquote, didn't beat him to the spot, he has
It's
committed the foul. Right.
I totally agree.
And this happens, I mean, on every right. Like, there's a reason that Russell Westbrook leads the NBA in free throws or is among the league leaders. Like, there's a reason that James Harden does this. Like, they create contact, and a lot of the time, they gain their advantage in the player not being set in front of them because they're actually moving away from the basket. It's like, so the defender is basically defending towards the front of the basket, but the player is driving towards the baseline and leans in and gets a bump, and it's like he's not set, he's not in front of me, I'm creating contact, and now I get to shoot the ball for an and one opportunity. It's like he's creating all of the contact. Like, common sense says like it's his fault. I mean, it doesn't even have to be a foul. Like, don't call offensive, don't call anything.
Right. No,
Like,
I
you
totally
did it.
agree.
Yeah,
if you're initiating the contact, yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, I totally agree. Like, it seems like so common sense too.
No,
Like,
absolutely.
it seems so common sense.
Like, and this happens how many times in the NBA game? Like, the defender will just be standing there with his arms out, and he'll like you can see like what did I like what am I supposed to do?
I feel like
I'm
it happens.
backing
I
up.
feel like it happens a lot on like not necessarily like straight on like fast breaks where it's like 2-on-1 because those probably end up in more dunks than anything. But
Right.
like a modified like 3-on-2, but like the other guy is just kind of backing away with his arms straight up, and then the other guy runs full speed into him. It's like, dude, he's backing up. He's backing up. Like I don't know.
Yeah.
Like he's trying to avoid contact.
I mean, there are
Um,
times when the defender is literally with his back to the player running
right.
away and they'll still call a foul.
Yeah.
It's like that should not be happening. Like if
Yeah.
because the point is to not foul players.
Right.
Like there's too many times when like if the defender is trying not to foul, then there should almost never be a call.
Yeah.
Because like that's the point of the game. They're defending without creating contact.
Yeah.
And then on the
I mean, I
oh, go
agree.
ahead. Well,
I,
on the other side, like I don't think like I've always had a big problem with like the Shane Battiers of the world, who like a player's driving to the basket and he's rising up, and some guy will sneak in out of the corner, get his feet just over the line, and just be standing there like, and they'll create a charge. It's like you're not defending. Like you standing there, like what? Who defends like that? Like that is
yeah,
not
like
a defensive
I,
stand.
you
Standing there,
have to. I mean, in that sense, like you have to be there before he leaves. The offensive player leaves the floor. In my mind,
right? But
um,
that I mean that's the rule. But for
well, they don't
me,
call it like that, right? They definitely don't call it like that.
like for me, it's like if you are an off-ball defender who is coming over and you are just standing there, like you are not defending him.
Yeah,
Like you are, it's almost like obstruction. Like you're impeding his progress by you. Like it's not like you're going up. Like if you're
yeah,
going up to block it, then that's one thing. And he puts his hand out and pushes you away. Like, all right, that's on him. But if you're just standing there, like that's not defending. You're doing nothing.
yeah.
And I don't think there should ever be a foul, like a charge on a pass off.
Oh
Like
yeah, I
so,
see what you're
if a
saying.
player passes and then the guy stands in the way, so the player passes, he's not even looking, and he keeps going forward, and he stands in
Right.
the way and runs him over. No, again, you're not defending.
Yeah.
Don't want it.
Let me ask you 2 questions before we get to football. No problems with like the draft or the draft lottery.
Um, it's so like there are a lot of good like ways that people have thought about to do this, like really nuanced ways,
Yeah.
that understand the process a lot more than me. So
The
I would
process. My 2 favorite words.
trust the process.
The process. When you
But
say that understand the process, are you talking about like, well, I don't remember who invented it, but like the draft wheel, where
yeah,
like
well, I mean, not
everybody's
just the
basically getting the
wheel,
same
but
draft
like,
picks over 6 years.
yeah, right, right. Like,
I
go ahead.
The reason I ask, I mean, like nothing came to mind immediately. Like
Like,
nothing came to
there's so many like, I
right.
feel like there's so many unintended consequences, um, that I can't. We don't have time to consider that. I don't really want
Yeah,
to get
like I
into.
think it's good for the league how it is now.
Yeah.
The other thing I was gonna ask was the free throw shooting, the hack of whoever. Leave it as is.
Well, I think they need to. I would take away like intentional fouls, just period. Like they don't call like fouling at the end of games. Like I don't know why those aren't intentional fouls. It's like when
Um,
you're telling the ref you're gonna foul. It's probably intentional foul. Like I'm not
right.
into like any. I think
I get. I
any.
mean, look, like that's more like, hey, we're telling you that we're gonna intentional foul because when it happens with the guy with the ball, right? So we're telling you that we're going to intentional foul. So that way, like, I don't really have to come up and foul him
Like
hard.
if you felt like, I guess I'll put it like this. The way I would do it is if you foul someone on purpose off the ball, then it's two in the ball no matter what.
Oh, like at any point of the game?
Yeah, fouling should not be a strategy.
Um, yeah. I mean, the strategy isn't the fouling. The strategy is like they're gonna miss free throws, right? Because
Right,
generally, like
but
if
like
they don't miss free throws,
if
then
you foul a guy on purpose who has the ball, like
yeah.
if you're aggressively trying to steal it, then okay, whatever. But if he's off the ball, like that's not the game is not
So you want the
designed.
last 2 minutes to be like how it is the whole game?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'd be fine with that. I wouldn't be fine with just being like, oh, you could have whoever's on the court go to the free throw line though.
Yeah, no. I no. I just,
Yeah.
it's an intentional foul. Like you're fouling someone who's just standing there. It's not part of the game. So,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah. Okay. So football, our last one. Go ahead.
You go.
You want me to go?
Yeah.
So I think actually this kind of gets back to what you said about the length of football. For me, I don't know if you can call this a rule, but I'd have to, it's kind of, they go hand in hand. More games with larger rosters, right?
So
Because
you're getting at something like soccer, where it's like you have backup players, like so you could have like star players or key players like sitting out games. Is that what you're going with?
or maybe not sitting out games, but like maybe not playing the whole game or whatever. So and obviously I go along with like larger rosters, and it actually probably comes back to like baseball. That's probably where it first started, because like in the early 1900s, you'd have like one pitcher, and then it was like, well, hey, like instead of just being like, well, we can't play any more games because our guys are tired. It's like, well, why don't you just get more guys? Why don't we just have more pitchers? So I mean, this is obviously super crazy, and it'll probably never really happen. Now they might go to like 18. And actually, probably the best idea of what I saw a proposal, and it was actually, I think it was for 19 games. Wait, let me think about this. 19. Yeah, I think it was for 19 games. So it was everybody has 9 home games, 9 road games, and a neutral game. And then you also have an extra bye. So you have 2 byes.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, right now you have a 53-man roster, but you're only dressing 46 for game day. So I mean, I don't know how you'd want to work it out as far as like, your 53 or what you're dressing. I know they've already proposed like being able to dress more guys on game day, which is crazy because like the guys that aren't dressing, they're still getting paid in full. So it's not like they're practice squad guys making already less money. It's like, no, like they're the ones getting guaranteed money and basically getting guaranteed they're not going to get hurt.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, you would just expand the rosters by whatever it is, 7 or 10 guys. You'd obviously figure out salary cap stuff later, but I mean, there's going to be more revenue because there's more football, there's more home games. So
Right.
Yeah, that would be my one.
Okay, I have 2. One is they need to change. They need to change like the salary cap structure. Like they have a hard cap now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they need to do it more like basketball does. Because I don't enjoy teams like I like the whole franchise tag thing. I think is dumb. I want teams to be able to keep their teams together, I guess.
Right.
because I just don't like the notion of like the Seahawks, right? They had a young core that they drafted well, and it's like, well, they can't keep them together, right? Like I feel like at some point, I feel like a team shouldn't be penalized for that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I
Like
mean, I don't know.
I want teams to be able, like the Josh Norman situation.
Right.
Like I'm just not, like you make a signing and it kills your cap or whatever. Like I'm just off on that. Like
Um.
let these teams be the teams. Like moving Josh Norman around like that. Like I just don't think that's good. Like players like Josh Norman or um this Von Miller situation that's coming up. Like it's just not good. Like keep continuity. Like it's better for the game, in my
Right.
opinion.
I would say that you could. I mean, look, like it does seem crazy that they have 53 guys on their roster, and their salary cap is only like 20 or 30 million more than the NBA, who has like 15 guys.
And they have a bajillion dollars.
Right. Um, but I don't know if I go to the NBA in this sense, or you just say, look, like these. Well, I guess if you say these teams just need more money, then like you'd still run into the same problems because it's just like the top guys would make more money, and then you'd kind of like price out the middle guys.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, look, like I guess basketball. What happens in football to like star players doesn't really happen in basketball. It would be akin to like for instance like Russell Wilson. The reason why like they were got into this bind is because they had to pay Russell Wilson. Well, it would be akin to like an undrafted NBA player signing like a 4-year minimum deal and like being an all-star and like, well, we don't have to pay him for 4 years, so we can sign all
Right.
these other guys. But like
Right.
that just doesn't happen in basketball.
Right.
Um, I mean, you're already, I don't know, like you're already kind of reaping the benefits for the first 4 years, but
It's just hard. Like or like look at like the Ravens, right? Like
yeah,
they won a Super Bowl, and you got to pay Joe Flacco. I mean, it's the most important position in the game. But in
right,
paying Joe Flacco, it pretty much cripples them from doing anything else, like buying any high priced players on any other position, because it's like he kills their cap, and they're hamstrung. It's like we have our quarterback, but we paid him too much, and now we can't really do anything. Like it
yeah.
just, it just doesn't need to be like that. Like there's too much money in the league for there to be such a hard cap.
Um, I mean, look, like the new CBA's coming up soon.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they need to. I mean, the players need to be really serious about this one.
Yeah. All right. What's
I
your
mean,
other one, real quick?
my other one, real quick, is like they need to like the whole 5 yard, 5 yard. What's it called? The illegal contact. It's like
Yeah.
immediate first down. Like that's ridiculous. Like it can't be 3rd and 15. A little 5 yard penalty is a first down for the offense. Like, come on.
Right.
I
I
mean,
had
just don't
one.
make it a first down. Make it a 5 yard penalty.
I had one that was like that, and it was like, let's say you have the ball on the 10-yard line, and you get a holding penalty, so you only do half the distance,
Right.
right? So now you're back at the 5-yard line.
Mm-hmm.
But like anywhere else on the field, you're going to be 1st and 20. But here you get to be
Right.
1st and 10 or 1st and 15. What I
Mm-hmm.
would do is then extend it another 5 yards. So instead of you got to get to the 20, you got to get to the 25.
Oh,
So it's still
gotcha.
1st and 20.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's
And
a
I
good
mean,
one.
it would be kind of like the exact same way, kind of all over the field. But I mean, it just really apply inside the 20s. That was the other one, but I thought, I mean, I could live with that. I'd rather have more football as opposed to like 5-yard penalties here and there.
Boom. Okay, we're running late. We got to go. So that's it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. This will get posted on our my tilting ground or Mike's tilting ground Twitter handle. It's at tilting ground. I'm gonna post it at Greg2126 is my Twitter. Thank you to CDK for the music. Michael put this up on Facebook. This is gonna be up on Facebook. Let us know if you liked it. Let us know what you think of the rules. We always like the feedback. And until then, we'll talk to everyone next week. See you, buddy.
All right, buddy. Take care.
Later.